Hello, hello, it's me, Plague of Gripes, if you remember. It's been a while, hasn't it? Ever since that animation, well, I can't remember what the last art gripe I did was. It was probably something. You probably watched it. Yeah, so you guys enjoy these, so I decided to make another one. So, this time around, since Deltarune Chapter 2 came out, I decided to do something relative to that. And with me today is Peach Saliva. Say hi, Peach.
Hi, Peach.
She did it.
I'm me.
She
Hello,
did the thing.
I did it. Hi.
Alright. So, general premise behind what I was doing, I've been streaming a lot lately. For anyone that doesn't know, go check out my Twitch thing. Plug. Did I do that correctly? I probably didn't. But
yeah,
anyways,
no,
I'm
good.
doing a lot of streaming lately. But on my stream, I decided to go waifu hunting, as it were, to find something to draw. And, Chapter 2 did not yield particularly great results in that regards. But all the same, I played it all the way through and decided that I would draw a scene that was not really depicted in Chapter 2, but it was sort of hinted at, I suppose. Noelle comments... By the way, spoilers. For anyone that... Spoilers. So,
Spoilers.
This will be a spoiler thing, so we're going to be talking about it and sort of reviewing it and talking about it, blah, 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 all that stuff. So if you don't want to hear that, then skedaddle. So, there's a part where she and Susie are in a big Ferris wheel and are discussing things, and she says that if she could do anything right now, she would grow wings and fly out and look at the cityscape. So I decided to draw that picture, what that would look like. So that's what this is. That's the concept. Alright. So, first, Paige, do you have any general thoughts about your particular... Well, first, explain how you viewed it, because you finished it before I did.
Chapter 2?
Yes.
So, I played Deltarune Chapter 2 the moment that it became available. What was it, like 7, 8 p.m., like bam, on the dot. 7
Yeah, I was going to, but he
8 p.m.
released it very late in the night for me at the time.
Yeah, no, it was pretty late, and it took me. I mean, now it took me because I'm a little slow in a variety of ways, but it took me 7, 8 hours to complete, which is I think an hour or two more than the first chapter. Overall, what I felt about the second chapter, not as strong as the first chapter. Now, I think for me, I think that's kind of. I mean, the first chapter was such a splash. It's it's the quote unquote, but not really, but also sort of spiritual sequel, prequel ? Alternate universe to Undertale. So of course I was all over that. You get to see Sans is there and Undyne. She's got both eyes, and you're like, what the fuck? This one, I didn't feel as strongly. Towards I think this one had funnier jokes. I think a lot of you know what I mean. The first one I think obviously more established because it's like, hey, here's the exposition, etc., etc. I didn't feel that quite as strongly. In this
we
one,
were talking about this right before we began, but my opinion kind of reflects yours in most. I would say it's actually as strong as the first chapter. It's just that it was more of a novelty whenever the first chapter came out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved this. I loved Chapter 2. Do not I'm not trying to say it just didn't my mind wasn't quite as blown like my skull wasn't open and bleeding out the back like it was in Chapter 1. But I did laugh a lot throughout Chapter 2. As for waifu hunting, I think they really did a fabulous job, and by they I mean Toby and his team worked on this as well, but mostly Toby. He did an incredible job fleshing out Noelle, most especially. I think that she's really fascinating. I think she's adorable. I love her interactions with Susie. Everybody. I think she's spectacular, and I'm very curious as to why she's just so damn powerful. I don't know, it's hinted upon quite a bit, but it's not really shown, at least in the version I played. There is, of course, the version, the alternate route that you can play that is known as the Snowgrave route.
I have no experience with any of that.
I have not played it yet. I am considering playing it on stream, but I'm very anxious about it. Like I can't bring myself to do it. And that, I think, kind of shows off her even more, perhaps. I really like how Susie was fleshed out a little bit more as well. Most especially Noelle Holiday. I think she's the only character with a last name, if I'm not mistaken. But Noelle and something about her sister. I believe it's insinuated her sister fell down, or quote unquote fell down, passed away. Her sister named
there's a lot of vague details that are hinted at in chapter 2.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see what Toby does with that. Love. I love Berdly. I think he's the greatest thing.
I hate that piece of shit.
Oh, I love him.
I really want to murder him.
Well, I think that's he's like, at first I was like, ugh,
yeah,
this guy.
Toby definitely wants you to kill him. And he succeeded on that front. I definitely want to murder that stupid bird.
Yeah. Well, I when I first saw him, I was like, oh, I hate this guy, right? And now I love to hate him. I think there's just there's a beautiful little line, a little gray area where you create a character that people not just hate or love, but love to hate. And I would get very excited when he would come on the screen. I think he's so stupid and silly. But he also, like, there is kind of a... It definitely didn't reach
that threshold for me.
Oh,
me,
really?
I just hated him. Like, anytime he appeared on screen, it's like, oh, fuck this thing again. Because then the whole scene would have to revolve around him and his various pathetic insecurities. Like, just get him out of here.
I don't know. I think that there was something really charming about him, and his, his arc throughout the chapter, I think, is really cool. I'm very excited to see what happens to him in chapter 3 and onward.
Yeah. He goes from being a delusional tool to a completely different sort of delusional tool.
Right. He's complicated for me because, he's essentially, he's like, he's Reddit. But I just, when he, spoiler alert or whatever, but he shares, he just sits down and he's like, okay, well, here's why I am the way I am. Here's my insecurities. Here they are. And he lays himself bare. And I just think that's really cool. I think it's really sweet. And this
is not this kind of game, but, this kind of story. But something that I've always found interesting with certain kinds of villains is whenever they have their Sabi backstory and they tell you why they are the way that they are, but they also make it clear that it doesn't matter because they would have turned out to be horrible little shitheads either way. And to me, that's what he is. Like, he did not have he didn't have great formative experiences, but he became Berdly anyways. So.
How do you feel about Queen?
Queen was... First in my search for waifus, like, I was actually looking for chapter 2, like, waifu material where I could draw something new. I didn't find anything, because the closest are Queen and Taskmaster, I guess. And Taskmaster is just sort of just this vague idea that it might be something. And several people have rigged models to do exploitive imagery with her, of course. But
I see.
As for me, it's like, there's just not much there, and I'm not too interested in it. So that's the reason why I decided to go back to Noelle, because just as far as waifus go, I didn't feel anything from chapter 2. But Queen, otherwise, just as a character, she's probably the funniest character in that chapter for me. The one I enjoy the most.
Major.
She still has Toby problems in the sense of all the characters always have, like, they're always much dumber than a person would be in real life, typically. So they're always making bizarre mistakes, but that's just the nature of, comedy in Toby world. So
wait,
can't
what do you
expect
mean?
too much.
What are Toby problems? Just characters that are dumber than they would be.
They're like
life?
Looney Tunes intelligent in the sense that they can be hyper intelligent, but they also make ridiculous mistakes, like her driving the car and stopping for a banana, or just bizarre cartoonish things.
Eli, she needs the potassium.
Potassium, yes, she needs the potassium. But anyways, and as far as Queen goes, she's probably my favorite Chapter 2 character, I guess.
I was surprised because as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, Eli's gonna be all over this. But you're not as interested in her.
No, not really. I don't really like her design. I don't like any of the designs in Chapter 2, honestly. Or really in Deltarune in general.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I have much preferred Undertale to Deltarune. And that comes down to a lot of factors. But in terms, since we're talking about art, in terms of the art direction, the thing I liked about Undertale is that they were basically just like monsters. You know, they're just very approachable concepts. Aside from like Sundari Plane or whatever it was. You know, just ever so often you get some random monster that was just some nonsense thing. But for the let's see, what was Chapter 1? Chapter 1 was all like playing cards or something, wasn't it? I forget what the theme was.
Something, yeah. So Chapter 1 is like cards, chess, like board games, like just very basic, like board game, tabletop sort of games, you know.
Yeah, there are a lot of abstract shapes, and you know, in terms of designing characters around them, they end up being nothing about them is really too memorable for me. And the same goes for this chapter. Everything's supposed to be sort of computer, intranet, memes, you know, just things like that. Like a Queen herself, I think her weird xenomorph-looking head thing is supposed to replicate an old Macintosh computer, I think.
Oh, really?
I think so, because the lens is there and it has that weird curvature to it.
Yeah, and it's like elongated. But she also looks very similar to the King from Chapter 1 and Lancer.
Yeah, so in terms of trying to unite all those things together, I think he did a fairly good job, because it's not hard to unify designs between chapters with two completely different aesthetic goals. But in terms of just in terms of how pleasing they are to the eye, I don't really care for them myself.
She also has elements of both Sonic, like in her the fact that she has the mono eye
and the big ass.
And the big ass, but then she rides in that thing that's very similar to Robotnik, so it's very interesting how he married those elements.
Has a 2D villain motif going on, kind of cliches working with.
Yeah, I think she was spectacular, and I love, and I know some artists took some liberties with this. That scene where everybody's trying to hide from Berdly, and Noelle is hiding in that alleyway, and then Queen like has her legs up over Noelle. Right. And I think, doesn't Noelle, her sprite, look up at
she gasps and covers Queen. Her mouth and looks up. Yeah.
And like her big fat ass is just like hovering over Noelle, and some artists
quite a few
made some photos. And it's just really funny. Like, I was, if I remember correctly, and keep in mind, I played this all in one night. I think we ended at like 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m.
Yeah, I had to do it in two sittings.
Yeah, I was so exhausted. If I remember correctly, this chapter was a little more cursing and a little bit not like sexy, but like a lot more sexual things going on, like and like, you know, like pretty much PG-13, like
in the most PG, tame way possible, but
like Noelle looking at Susie's ass, you know, her sprite, like when you're wandering around, she's like, oh, I really have to be behind Susie for no reason. And I remember thinking, I was like, is her sprite looking at Susie's ass? And she's blushing, and she was.
Keeps commenting on
which
her
then
tail.
Later becomes. Yeah, which is interesting, because I remember thinking in Chapter 1 how she doesn't have a tail, and I thought that was interesting, but apparently she does. I don't know. I'm very interested. So here's a question. Someone I was talking to says that there is a love, like, trapezoid in Deltarune Chapter 2, right? And I wanted to ask,
I was talking to you, and I claimed that there was sort of love triangle going on. Yeah, and you were very adamantly against the idea.
Well, no. You said there was a triangle. I swear to God, there was someone else that I spoke to that said there's a trapezoid going on, like a different shape.
I mean, there's
was that you? That wasn't you. Was it you?
If it's what I'm thinking of, plus maybe Berdly, I don't know.
So
Because,
here's my question. So okay,
there is you and Noelle in the sense that you are childhood friends, which is a romantic trope in and of itself. You apparently were very close as kids, like you hiding under her bed and whatnot. You have multiple chances to sort of come on to her in terms of optional, like, selectable dialogue that you can choose from.
You do? I don't remember that.
And, of course, the Noelle and Susie thing is completely obvious, mainly from Noelle's point of view. Susie seems more protective than romantic, but that's also just kind of Susie's character in the first place. She's kind of oblivious.
Yeah.
So either way, you can sort of view that as being romantic or not romantic. And, of course, Susie and the main character also is sort of a romantic dynamic. It's more of like a buddy cop thing, almost, as opposed to romantic.
I don't sense anything romantic between Kris and Susie. I mean, they're very close, but yeah, it's buddy cop, it's bros.
Susie really likes hanging around you.
Yeah.
And in terms of... like, she goes really out of her way, especially at the end, to hang out with you and to be around you, wants to go over to your house, wants to see everything about you. So you can construe that as being romantic or just very, very familiar. You know, it just depends on how you look at it, I guess. Yeah. So whenever I say there's a love triangle, that's what I'm talking about. Now, whether there's Berdly or not, I mean, he can die in a fire, of course, but if you want to view that as being romantic in some way.
Why do you hate my boy? I love him.
He's designed to be hated, and Toby accomplished that.
But no, you love to hate him. It's different.
I don't.
You enjoy
I want him away
you
from me.
I love him.
I have enough
He's
hate
precious.
in my life. I don't need someone manufactured to be hated.
How do you feel about Ralsei? How do you feel about him by the end of this chapter? What do you think?
Honestly, I kind of forget about him. He kind of exists to be cute, I guess. The only thing I guess I really have to say about him is that I got the impression very early on into chapter 2 is that somehow he was either responsible for or was negligent or something in regards to what's been going on. Somehow he was... I guess responsible is too strong of a word, but it does seem like this is going to be set up that a lot of the things that have happened are because Ralsei wants someone to be around. Like he just wants friends. So he's sort of inadvertently endangering your world, maybe, or his own world, in order to get people to hang around with. Like, it's very unclear at this point because it's just too early. It's so early, and so just so anyone who's listening, just so y'all know, like we're just fucking speculating here, but I am suspicious as fuck. Like, I mean, and I like, it's obvious, like, yeah, you should be a little suspicious, but like, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Like, I remember, I think it's in the very first chapter where there's just a moment where he pauses as he's like closing the door or something. And like, that was my first clue that's like, all right, there's something fucky here. But the fact that he can just walk around, the dark world into various different dark worlds and not have the same problems that Rules Card and Lancer have, I'm suspicious as fuck. Like, plus there's also why in early chapter 2, one of the first things that you do is he says, go over to this classroom. Like, how the hell did you know any of this? Go get a bunch of objects that are lying around and just bring them back. And it seems like they all turn into people afterwards. So, and the game doesn't even really notice this at all. It just has you do it. So my first impression was, okay, is everyone in the dark world not actually a person? Are they like objects? And that's the reason why they all look like objects. If that's the case, then who is he? You know, just so forth and so on.
Well, I mean, see, when we first saw chapter 1, and by the end of it, you wake up in the quote unquote wake up in the classroom, and you can see like a little doll that represents Sham. You can see all these various things that represent where you have been or people you've talked to. And then the same issue in chapter 2 when you wake up and you can see the Ferris wheel, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, I don't know. It's very confusing, and it's like, is any of this real? Is this, what's happening? I thought chapter 2 was going to answer questions, but now I just have more questions.
Up until it turned out that there's 7 chapters.
Right. Like I was expecting like maybe 5, but 7. Now here's another thing. And I apologize, I'm babbling, but you've just reminded me. So there's 7 chapters, right? There's 7 souls. And there's 7 days of the week. Does this whole game happen within a week? Does it happen you know what I mean?
I don't know.
That's, and I'm also wondering, because I think, are there 7 kids in the classroom? Are they each going to be, are there 8? Let's see. I'm just speculating.
It's 3 by 3, so there should be 9, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because there's 3 desks and 3 rows and 3 columns.
Yeah,
and
that's
Susie is usually the only one that's missing. So yeah, 9.
Well, there's you and Susie, right?
Sure.
So if you take you and Susie out, that's 7.
We're getting into numerology territory here.
I know.
And if you take Susie's name, then add it, and then divide it by this other thing.
I know. I'm just like, I don't know how Toby does it, but he adds just enough. He answers just enough, but adds so many more questions, and you're like, oh, is this a red herring? What does it all mean? Like the egg. Do you remember the egg that you get in Asgore's, like, weird floral shop? You can get an egg.
No.
And like I thought, oh man.
1?
That's chapter 1, and I thought, oh, it's gonna mean something. And then I think in chapter 2, I think that's why he goes to Sans store, is to get eggs or something.
He's looking for flowers because he wants to find something that will help his wife love him again.
Oh my god. Okay, can I just tell you, when Sans, Toriel, and Asgore are in, like, when I tell you that I, like, wanted to shriek, it physically gave me pain. It made me feel, like, it made me start breathing like I was giving birth, because I was just like, whew, it's, the cringe was so spicy and hot. Do you know what I mean? When it gave me pain and hot flashes to see all 3 of them in the same scene. Like, Sans didn't know what to do, but he's flirting with Toriel, and Toriel's obviously flirting with Sans, but it's really uncomfortable because there's Asgore. It was like out of a fanfic. I couldn't believe Toby did it.
You've always had way more connection with that than I. Like, I don't care. Like, especially the whole Sans and Toriel thing. Like, in Undertale, I never got the impression that it was really romantic. It just seemed very familiar and jokey. Like, haha, knock-knock jokes. And that's kind of all that was going on. But fans like reading into it so much, it feels more like... That's one of my main criticisms of Deltarune. I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but...
man.
Probably one of my biggest issues with it is that a lot of Deltarune is just, hey, remember Undertale? Remember this theory you had in Undertale? And it's just like fan service over and over and over again. A lot of the character interactions, like even what you're talking about right there. But the whole character interaction between the two of them.
That's 5 minutes of the game. Is it like, yeah, the town, yeah, because like there's Undyne, there's Alphys, etc. But like most, like 98% of the game is completely other than like
something else I was going to say. Whenever you were saying that, I don't know how he manages to pace things out. It helps whenever you don't have anything to say for most of the game, because a lot of chapter 1 and a lot of chapter 2 is just like joke, nonsensical thing, joke, and there's not much, like, which is fine, obviously. But in terms of like a substance to the main plot, obviously we're not there yet. There's like hints of something going on, but no one has even really mentioned much of anything about it. And in terms of character development, which is more the thing that I'm about, even that we really haven't gotten much of. The most fun I had with Chapter 2 was at the very end when we finally got out of all the computer land nonsense, And characters were finally allowed to just be characters and start talking to one another and hanging out and just having simple interactions. And to me, that's the strongest Toby's writing is whenever characters are just being authentically characters with one another and not more the two-dimensional joke characters that make the memes, I guess. Like, what's the dumpster one? The
Spampton?
big shot guy? Yeah,
Spampton.
Yeah, I got nothing
Spampton
out of that
G.
fight
Spampton.
myself. I know Pat was obsessed with him. To me, I was just greatly annoyed at being interrupted.
I think he's very interesting. Now, I guess you do get to fight a Neo version of him in the Snowgrave route.
I don't know anything about the super bosses.
So, well, what's interesting to me is I didn't watch too much, but I saw like a very brief 10-second thing of that fight, and it's like it's so fascinating to me because you're just watching two puppets fight. You got Spampton, who's literally a marionette. Like he's designed, he looks like a marionette, and he's got strings. I think his song is called "He's a Real Boy." He's a puppet. But then you've got Kris, who is absolutely 100% a puppet. So you're just two puppets slapping each other in this fight, and I just thought that was really funny.
Yeah,
what do you think of Kris so far? Now that we know more about him pulling the heart out, we saw 3 instances of that? 2 or 3, 2?
Yeah, I guess so. There's not much to think about.
What do you think of
so
him?
Far. I don't know. There's not much to go off of. Something is happening. Apparently, he's creating the fissures, the fountains, I should say, in the real world, but for some reason no one that's in the real world knows that they're there, or... It's kind of laughable that no one woke up during all that. So I guess it has something to do with what's going on in the Dark World. Like, he's creating aspects of the Dark World. Why, we don't know. Whether what he's doing is evil. It seems to be insinuated just because of all the music and the atmosphere and whatnot.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we really don't know.
See, there are some theories that are that... I don't know if he's evil per se, because there are options that you choose throughout chapter 2 that you I guess other characters can tell that Kris doesn't want to say, but you, the player, are forcing him to say. I think that's absolutely fascinating, and the fact that he pulls you out and blocks you under the sink or shoves you into the couch or into a literal cage, and then he's able to go off screen, because we can only be where that heart is, right? And the fact that he can just go off and do God knows what, we don't even know. I think that's so fucking cool.
Apparently,
I'm
slash
such a mark.
tires for some reason.
So that's another thing.
The whole reason why that Undyne came over was just because of the slash tires, so some people speculate is because he was trying to attract her into the next Dark World in some capacity.
That's possible. Well, see, Undyne doesn't show up, though. Not that we see yet.
No. If she did, then she said she was going to, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. No, okay, my theory is that he slashes the tires, but we don't quite know why. Now, that seems really nefarious, but that could be Kris's way of making it so that, I don't know, so that Susie doesn't leave, because for some reason he doesn't want Susie to leave.
Well,
maybe
Susie
it is
could
to attract.
Leave.
That's true, but maybe he is trying to attract Undyne. Maybe. And get her over to the house for some reason. I think the next chapter is going to involve... So obviously, when he stabs the ground and creates the fountain, I think Toriel will be in chapter 3 in the Dark World. And I think that it is going to be... we've gone from older tabletop kind of games to computers. And now I think we're going into movies because... And film and stuff like that. I think that's why Susie was flipping through the channels, and there was some Godzilla shit or whatever, some cooking channel stuff. I think we're going to be cooking with Toriel in this Dark World. I think Undyne is also going to be present or leap in and help out. And she'll probably do some like Revolutionary Girl Utena shit, just like she always talked about, saving the princess, etc. And then
did she talk about that in Undertale or Deltarune?
I'm gonna be honest. I've read so much fan fiction, I don't even know anymore. But I feel like she mentions some like Utena stuff, canon in Undertale. So I am very curious to see that she. I think she will live out some kind of anime fantasy. That's my hope. If they are gonna do like film and TV next as the theme of the chapter, if it does continue in that way, I think that she will be there and she will be some kind of anime hero. And I will cry and I will be so happy. And that also tells me, because like the fact that you, now I'm losing my mind. The fact that you were like, oh, I didn't feel that way about Sans and Toriel in Undertale. Like, oh man, the fact that she's writing knock jokes in her personal diary, working them out to try to impress Sans. It's like, babe, please. So I think
there's
what's
nothing
going
to
to happen,
go off of.
Eli, please. So I think that.
Like, Paige, the only thing they ever do, is just tell knock-knock jokes. Why would... Like, you're insinuating that she has no interest in the knock-knock jokes themselves and just wants to spend time with him.
No. Well, no, of course, but that's the way that they... that's the way that they talk. You know, like, all they have... Well, because they don't know who each other are, who the other is.
That's my
in
point.
Deltarune.
Like,
but obviously
just to
they
spend time together, but they have no idea who each other is.
Yeah,
like the main thing for her is that she's lonely and just wants to spend time with someone, and she enjoys the knock-knock jokes. And that's it. Like, to me, that's as far as that goes. And the rest of it is just fan fiction, people wanting to pair things up so that they can fuck each other.
I mean, listen. So anyway, as I was saying, so I think that if... I appreciate you. I appreciate your thoughts, but I'm telling you right now.
I appreciate your wrong thoughts.
I appreciate your bullshit, but no, I think in my fan fiction-y little land of my brain, I think that if Toriel is going to get caught in the Dark World, I would bet $20 that Sans will also show up down there, even for a split second. I think
by the time we get to 7, everyone's going to be down there.
Oh yeah,
like the two worlds will have merged.
Something like that. But I definitely think Sans and Toriel and Undyne will be down there. Least likely of all Sans. Obviously Toriel will be. But I very heavily suspect Undyne.
Don't forget, Sans's brother, the smaller Sans.
No!
Is just a smaller version of himself.
Lesser Sans. Yeah. Dude, when I got to that door, I'm gonna start crying. I'm like legit so fucking. I'm so tilted.
It's been years and years and years, and he's never even bothered.
The last thing that I did canon-wise with Papyrus is chop off his fucking head. Yeah, you know, and it's like, so. I have some fears about this because. In Undertale, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when you very first fight him, you know, it says their attack and defense, and then it'll say like a tiny blurb about them. With his, it shows, I think his attack, his defense, and then it just says an asterisk, and it just says forgettable.
Aww.
And I am terrified that a small Sans, haha, I'm scared that's going to be real. Because notice how he never says, oh, Papyrus. He just says, my brother. I'm scared that they're going to do something like that. And I don't know. I'm very curious to see what will happen with Pap. But I'm afraid. That's my comfort character. That's my favorite character. I have a body pillow, for God's sake. I've got plushies. I love Sans and Papyrus, but mostly Pap. And
this is why I wanted you on the video, because I I personally have absolutely no attachment whatsoever to Undertale.
Right.
Especially not
Right.
Deltarune. I don't care about Deltarune at all. But I figured, well, if someone knows something about this, it's going to be Paige. And she will get very excited for both of us.
I mean, my theories are probably wrong, and, like, I'm probably trapped in fan fiction land. Like, I'm self-aware. But I am very nervous. I trust Toby, but I am so scared.
I don't trust Toby. Toby will fuck with you just to fuck with you.
Well, true. But no, what I'm saying is I trust that he will give us a really fun ride.
Before killing Papyrus.
Before breaking my heart again. Like, I'm scared I'm gonna have, like, 3 kids and like and be old, and then Deltarune, the rest will come out, and I'll be like, oh, finally I get to see my husbando, Papyrus, and it's just gonna be weird, and I'm so scared that we're never
Grandma
gonna see him.
is embarrassing us again. She's talking about her husbando
God.
skeleton.
Come over here, Undyne, Alphys, and Papyrus. Come see what Mommy used to play. Like, I am nervous.
This is what Granny Smut was.
Oh God. God help me. I guess so. My biggest fear, though, what's more likely, I think Pap will show up, but I'm scared he's going to be some kind of either villain in some capacity, like he's being forced to because of Flowey, just something like that, or he's going to be the hero, the actual real, like kind of how Undyne is the true hero in, like, quote unquote, in Undertale, that he will be the true hero of some kind in...
I think it'd be funny if he showed up. It's like, oh, here's my brother. And, like, some very minor amount of, like, fanfare played, like some sort of musical score or something.
Yeah.
Then, like, he stepped out of the door and he's like, hey. And then he walks back out to the same fanfare, and that's all you see of him the entire series.
I would weep uncontrollably. Like, just you saying that, like, I got tears in my eyes. I'm fucked. Like, I'm fucked. Well, because I feel like I truly feel like I betrayed someone that I deeply care about. And there's this second chance. But
he doesn't even know your name.
He doesn't even know who I am, and...
For you, it was the most dramatic moment of your life. For him, it was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday. So I once again, I was disappointed. You don't have access to him. Sans is like, haha, just kidding. I changed my mind. Or I don't know. And that's another thing, because does Sans know what's up, and he's trying to protect his brother? He's like, oh, never mind.
Well,
like,
again, one of my main complaints is that Deltarune relies way too much on Undertale. So I have this suspicion / fear that we're going to learn that Sans, again, has some sort of internal knowledge of the workings of the world. And he's going to be like, oh yeah, you've experienced this before, haven't you? And he's referencing Undertale, and then there'll be events that transpire that hinge on your understanding of Undertale and the relationships that the characters had in that.
I don't think so. I think that...
especially
there's good...
like with Undyne and, what's her face? The horrible little gremlin.
Alphys.
Yeah, Alphys.
Yeah.
Alphys and her, they don't know each other in any way. The whole attraction in Undertale was that she had intensity. Like, that supposedly is the thing that attracted Undyne to her, is that she was really intense about her love for things. But they don't know each other. There's no reason for them to have any form of attraction.
Well,
other than the fact that you remember Undertale, so they're just going to do that no matter what. They're just destined to do the same thing.
What do you mean there's no reason? Maybe Undyne's really into that. Well, yes, she does. She knows she's the teacher, and she's like, oh, her bike. So she's like, here, whatever. It's for the bike. Maybe she's physically attracted to her, and she's just kind of reaching out. You don't know.
She wants that hot, blobby teacher, underpaid teacher action.
What does that have to do with anything? It's true love.
Indeed.
True love cares
true
not
fan
about
fiction
your...
love. True referential to another game series love.
Oh my god. Can't there be the smallest amount of fan service? Or
I
does
just
that
want more
always
than that. Like, I want there to be
There
more
is more
developments
than
beyond
that.
that. Like, what are
There
their
is.
characters beyond that right now?
Beyond what?
Like, take Undyne, for example. Like,
Yeah.
she, police officer, lifts cars,
Well, we're
likes
not
her.
dealing with them though. She's essentially an NP, like a very
Yeah.
like whatever minor NPC in Deltarune.
Right. The main characters.
Essentially.
How many main characters do we really have right now? It'd be main character,
Like
our
main?
main character, Kris, Susie, Ralsei.
Chris, Susie,
Noelle.
Ralsei, Lancer took a real hard backseat, but technically
Yeah.
Noelle.
It's like the main group that you walk around with, and
Yeah,
I guess that's about it, aside
that
from the
seems
villains.
to be. Yeah, that seems to be the case thus far.
So what would you say would be, like... It's hard to measure this. By the way, this is a greater point I'll probably never get to in this discussion, but I don't like things that are released episodically, or by chapters.
I don't either, to be honest. I don't either, but I mean, I'm grateful, and I completely understand why in this regard. But it's not my favorite way
Like,
for
in my
things
experience,
to
all it
consume.
does is like, I normally think of Half-Life. Like, whenever they said we were going to release, instead of doing another game, we're going to release it episodically. And of course, they got like 1 and debatably a half, 2, but debatably. They never got to Chapter 3. Everyone's always asking, where's Half-Life 3? But they never even finished Half-Life, 2 Chapter 3 or whatever it was. Like, it just becomes a mess because it increases the amount of development problems that you have unnecessarily. In terms of the narrative, it splits up the way that you're thinking over a period of years as opposed to writing it all down at the same time. It's just it's just rife with issues that you just don't need. But anyways, that's nothing. Now, what was the thing you just asked before that? I wanted to get that out before.
I don't know, but I completely agree with you. I think releasing things episodically, a chapter, it makes it. Yeah.
We have our main characters. What would you say,
Yes.
like right now, like let's compare it to Undertale, since it seems inordinately concerned with doing that itself. Ha ha ha. In Undertale, what would you say the main plot was? Like, it should be pretty easy to summarize.
The most basic, you have fallen underground, you have to get out.
Sure.
Like the most basic
That'd be like
is
the
you
first
need to
5
make
minutes,
your
I
way
guess.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to make your way through.
And the more general plot would be, you need to get out. There is the choice between, I guess, good and evil, like standard RPG mechanics, or, this is a odd game that I'm playing, I just realized. There's that element, too. The core plot, I guess, would be reuniting monsters and humans because of an old war. Like, old, like, racial tensions, I guess you could say. And the fact that means also overcoming the whole barrier being broken in the wrong way. Because it's assumed that there can be no peace between the two different races.
Sorry, my brain is like fried, but I think that the only way to, and this is why Toriel doesn't want you to leave, the only way that she knows of and everyone knows of is for a monster and a human have to pass through together, but I think that it combines them. Yeah, or something like that. Like I love Undertale so much, and for some reason I can't think of one of the most crucial things right now.
Because that's my other main point, is that the main crux of Undertale, what people liked Undertale, is not the sort of nonsensical backdrop and all the monster human stuff. It's the characters. People like the characters. They like watching the characters interact.
Very much.
Anyways, proceed.
Like, are you trying to ask what
Deltarune,
what the story of Deltarune is?
What story is Deltarune telling right now? Like,
Well,
what is the core crux of it?
It's hard because we are we've only seen 2 chapters, and there's a lot. This one has a lot more mystery,
Presumably, we're
I think.
2/7 of the way through.
Right. I think that this one's more of a mystery because it's like, why is Kris the only human? Obviously, there's something in that bunker, very clearly, especially now. I obviously, I think all the humans are down there. I think there's humans down there. So only Kris is up there. But why is that? What's going on with this fountain? Who is Ralsei? And
that's not a stated mystery. It's just something that the player would be wondering.
Well, yeah. I mean, but this one, I think both of them are very like meta, but like especially Deltarune it relies heavily on the fact that, hey, you are the player. And at first you're like, oh, no, I'm Kris. It's like, no, Kris is Kris. You are you. So I was going somewhere with that.
Yeah, I know. My point was just that with Deltarune, it's much harder to pin down just because, it's being released episodically. So it's really hard to get an understanding of what the hell it is that we're even supposed to be exploring. And I guess it's more just questioning like the nature of how the world works, I guess.
Yeah.
Like that's all I can really think of. It's just much harder to get a bead on what Undertale's or what Deltarune is even supposed to be about.
Well, it's the almost polar opposite of Undertale, because Undertale, obviously monsters are trapped underground and you are the only human and you have to make your way. And so I'm wondering if Deltarune is you're the only human above ground with all these monsters, and maybe you have to figure out how to get to that bunker. Maybe. I have no idea. It's speculating.
That's kind of my point with this is anytime you're writing a story, you want it to be as clear as possible with the directing sort of, even if it's contextual, what the imperative happens to be with the narrative. Like, what are we getting to? What's the entire point of this? And Deltarune just doesn't really have that. And it doesn't start very strong early. It sort of, like I said, it relies a lot on, it's Undertale characters, and that's what the mystery is. It's being meta-textual, it's being very meta about itself. It relies very, very heavily on that.
I guess I see your point.
If you played it on its own, if there was no Undertale, like if you just brought this to a kid like 50 years from now and didn't tell them that Undertale existed, then I would be very I'm not trying to make a greater criticism here. Just it would be very interesting to see what their take on it would be, because they might be incredibly confused, or they just might be like, "Oh, haha, monster characters! I love this," and it would be as simple as that.
I'm so ingrained in this that I can't give a good. I can't even fathom what it would be if someone who's never played Undertale could enjoy Deltarune in the same way as someone who has played Undertale. I don't know. I guess we can ask I'm sure some people have.
Yeah, there's probably, if you leave Deltarune. It here in the comments, if you are the kind of person that never played Undertale, don't care about Undertale, don't really know anything about it, but you have played Deltarune, leave your general thought. You're not gonna leave a whole essay on it or anything, but just your general thoughts on how it's impacted you, whether you like it, whether you're obsessed with it or anything like that. That'd be interesting to see. Because I'm not sure how many people like that are running around.
Yeah. That's a perspective I would be very interested in. My question is for you, Eli. How is, so far from what we know about Deltarune, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's a good game?
Yeah, I mean, it has nowhere near the impact that Undertale had, of course. Like, Undertale took off for a variety of... It's like, in hindsight, it's kind of hard to explain how Undertale took off. It was more of just a sort of word-of-mouth sort of thing. It just so happened to do very well. There are other games that have done similar ideas, but I guess a lot of it hinges on the fact that the characters were as strong as they were. And it was... like, in terms of, like, I've got to get out of the underground or whatever, who cares? But in the process of playing through the game, it's just that the game itself had two main things going for it, and one was the characters. Like, all the little characters were delightful to be around. They did weird little Toby sort of things, like how his writing is. So they were doing all that. And just the meta weirdness of the game talking to you and interfering with your save files and things, which again have been done in the past. Nothing immediately springs to mind, but I know it was a thing. But that also helped it along, especially with the fact that its target audience seemed to be formative sort of kids, so it's easy to sort of it's easier to ride that sort of age demo up, which has helped Deltarune a lot. There's a lot of analysis things you could do, but yeah, those two main things.
Yeah. Do you think that Tumblr was pivotal to
back when that was
Undertale's success? Yeah.
Tumblr still technically exists. It does technically exist. But yeah. At the time, it was very easy to distribute information and memes and fan art and things like that without much worry about filtering it through safe for work stuff or whatever. So it's much easier to distribute information on things like that at the time. Whereas that medium is sort of gone now, aside from like different formats like TikTok, I guess would be the one now. But that's more video.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just a very different environment at the time.
So, for me, Deltarune doesn't have quite the punch for me that Undertale did, personally. But I am loving Deltarune so far. And by the way, when I say that Deltarune 2 was not as strong as Deltarune 1, I still loved the shit out of it. Like I gotta drive that home. Love it. I suck at it. If you watch my if you watch my playthrough, it's pathetic. But
I mentioned this on
great.
Stream, but I hate like anything that's even mildly shmuppy, I guess is the word.
Shmuppy. Can you explain?
Shmups. Like Shmup God. I forget who his friend is. Pat would know. But they're the games where you're essentially controlling like a little fighter ship, and you move vertically, and like the screen scrolls vertically down, and you like shoot things. Then you'll get like a power up and
like bullet hell, or what do you?
Yeah, it's sort of like that, I guess. Just
okay. Shoot 'em ups. Yeah. Shmup. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
But anyways, even like back in whenever I had an NES, whenever I was a kid, I would always gravitate towards games that did not have like projectile dodging and having to worry about landing on platforms, which is very unusual for that era, since that's all games were at the time. So I played a lot of like Goonies 2 or NES Baseball, or stuff like that, because they were more about just making decisions on where you wanted to go as opposed to mechanically dodging things. I've always been that way, like even as a kid. And that's all that Deltarune and Undertale really are whenever it comes down to them being like video games. Like there's the plot, there's the things that I would like to watch someone do. I enjoy interacting with them, but whenever it comes to actually doing the combat stuff, I hate it. I hate the gameplay of these games. I despise it. So I'm like that. Like the final boss fight, whenever you get to the final boss fight against the big robot.
Yeah.
God, I was just so ready for it to be done. I had no interest in continuing. I just wanted it to be over.
I liked the punch out kind of aspect to it.
I like the idea.
Really
just
cool.
I don't want to try. Like I'm the kind of person I play games to relax. Like I don't want to be challenged by Deltarune. Get out of my face with that. I just want to enjoy the characters. Shut up.
Well, you play Dark Souls.
Yeah, but Dark Souls is very,
Dark Souls?
very slow and methodical and plotting, so it's not really about mechanics or quick reactions or anything like that. You just either make good decisions or you make bad decisions in Dark Souls. Unless you're talking about Dark Souls 3, then it becomes more of a sort of a mess because it's more Bloodborne influenced. Dark Souls 2, not Dark Souls 2 really either. That's also kind of plotting, but in a very different way. But anyways, as far as the gameplay goes, I don't really enjoy the gameplay of Undertale or Deltarune. It's always just, I want to interact with the characters. I want to be able to explore the world at my own pace. I do, actually, whenever the gameplay is just sort of turn-based, like whenever you're making good decisions on, how do I describe this? Like, you do things in the game where you compliment someone or whatever. You know, the good path from like Undertale or this game. And then they become things that you can forgive or whatever the mechanic is called. I forget. Spare. Yeah, that's it. Spare. Those I got fairly good at because I could always guess what needed to be done, and I would be able to, even if it was a new enemy, to spare them in the span of like 2 turns or 1 turn, just by guessing and seeing, it automatically fills out their thing. I'll tell this character, even though they're not spareable yet, to spare this character, and then, you know, I'm just very good at making those decisions, sort of compacting all my turns together as closely as possible. But whenever it comes to like actually dodging the blue arrows or whatever, I suck at that stuff. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, I am too. Like I can't pay attention to too much at once.
My problem is that I don't want to do it.
Beat. Oh, I see. Okay.
Like this my thing is,
you're just lazy.
Yeah, I am. Like whenever it comes to it, it's like, oh, can you do this? I don't care. Like, I want to hand it off to my son that I don't have. Like, you do it. You're the one that likes this crap.
Jesus Christ. You're such a weirdo. By the way, I didn't really get to comment on your picture. It is so beautiful. This is probably... And I love your work. I think that this is one of the most, like,
and you know that I
beautiful. Hate it. And I know that you hate it, but
especially that cityscape. I'll go ahead and tell you. The cityscape especially, is like, I am not. The thing I hate drawing the most in the world is anything that is not
I could tell.
Biological. I
can literally tell. I wish I could go back in time to when the video was being made. I could watch you do it. Yeah, I could hear you in my mind's ear grumbling and swearing a little bit. Yeah,
because it's just a lot of, like, you're drawing an entire city. Like, imagine drawing one building and all, like, the texture marks and all the various little details, crumbling bricks and crap. Now draw that, like, billions of times over. I'm not doing that. Like, here's a simple shape. Here's some little dots. Good enough. Get out of my face. Back to Noelle, though.
Back to those tits. No, I gotta tell you, though, like, that is a beautiful cityscape. You did such a great job. It kind of evokes, like, oh, is that Chicago? Is it Seattle? What's going on there, right? Like, you did a very good job. Like, I know you hate it.
Undertale and Deltarune do this. They always say, ooh, look at that. And they act like they're in this gigantic metropolis. When you're actually playing, you feel like you're in this almost, like, desolate area that has, like, 10 people in it. But then you look at the background, it's like, oh no, it's like a thriving super city. Like, really?
Yeah.
So what is back there? I don't know. Will we ever see that? Was I walking in it? Sort of. But everything that was in there almost seemed like an automated process with like 1 or 2 characters in it. It totally makes really bizarre worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the way that I think that you've colored this, it looks like it's from, like, a still from a show. Like, this looks like this is just, you know, like I was saying, this
I was
is
trying
one of those,
to avoid making it too
breathtaking.
Yeah, I didn't want to, like, paint it. I decided to just try to do, like, 2-tone for the foreground stuff and just leave it at that. Aside from, like, the little Ferris wheel thing. That's pretty much it. As far as doing anything overly shaded. Something I did want to ask you about the gameplay, though, is what do you think about the whole good versus evil, like, spare kill route thing? What do you think about that in general?
In general, I think that in Undertale, I was really... That blew me away. That you could make those choices. And the choices mattered. And even killing everyone, or even killing one, or only 2, like, everything mattered. In Deltarune, the first chapter, it makes it, you know, they even say, like, your choices, they don't matter. Mm-hmm. But in Deltarune 2, there's an alternate route. So I'm a little confused. Like, I guess your choices do matter.
I'm not sure.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool as fuck. I am very interested. I'm interested to see whether or not sparing people is quote unquote good or evil, or if it's morally neutral, and it just is what it is. You know, and is it me? Is it Kris? Who's the bad guy? Also, was that smile on the TV? Is that Flowey? Was that Spampton? I don't know. It's not quite clear. Is that is it just fucking? Is it Gaster? Are we Gaster?
Yeah, I got the impression it was going to be Gaster yet again. More Undertale.
The grin. Well, the fact that it's on the TV and it's grinning and with the eyes, that made me think it was Flowey. Because Flowey, his final form is he's a TV screen with that smile.
Sure. I have no idea why it would be Flowey, though. Flowey's not a character in this game, and it has no place in this game from what we understand of the world.
I mean, we don't. Well, Flowey is, spoiler alert, I guess, but Flowey is Asriel. Ralsei is probably Asriel. So,
like in universe, no one's indicated that your brother or whatever has died or anything, but they've gone out of their way to not show them at the same time.
Well, he's away. He's quote unquote away at college, right?
Yeah,
so we don't know. I am curious to see.
I just don't want it to be another Undertale reference. Like, I don't want it to just be like,
not?
remember Flowey? I don't care. Like, do your own thing. Tell another story. Don't just jerk yourself off.
Maybe he wants to jerk himself off.
Anyways.
Be respectful.
I was going to say, as far as like Undertale goes, I thought the good evil thing, the two routes thing was like novel and so on. Here's me cheating, like I got really sick and tired of the white waves. Like, well, I'll just do some opacity shit at the very bottom.
Right.
You can barely even see it either way, so I don't care. And Undertale's like, oh, well, that's interesting, but I also thought, well, once you get past like the first 5 minutes, you're never going to do that again, so why even bother? Like, it should have been a decision you made early on that just keeps being that decision, unless there's some really major aspect to the middle ground, like the neutral ending, which there really isn't. The neutral ending just tells you sort of, yeah, well, there's more to it than that. Just go do it again. And that's really all the neutral is for the most part.
Well, yeah, but then it also, like who you allow to live, particularly the boss monsters, it's like,
yeah, sometimes
whoever is who ends up ruling down there. Like there's one where I think if you leave only Papyrus, he's the king, and it's like adorable, but it's like he's the king of no one, you know. It's just him and Sans down there.
Like that, I wasn't especially compelled by, because I'm not gonna replay the game over and over again to do stuff like that. In Deltarune, it feels especially pointless just because we already know the joke. Like, we get it. Like, everyone was anticipating it from day one, which is why Chapter 1 didn't even bother with it. And now in Chapter 2, they're going back. It's like, well, yeah, same thing. It's just the same thing over and over again. So, to me, it doesn't really have... Like, it has that same general problem that I have with Deltarune versus Undertale. Is Undertale, a lot of the value was in how surprising everything was and how original it was. Whereas if you start repeating it, then it just becomes meaningless. So I think that's kind of my issue with Deltarune, is that it repeats a lot of its better's successes without really doing anything novel and new on its own. Anyways, here's finished picture.
I disagree, but I guess we'll find out. It's beautiful. This is beautiful.
If you say, to me, I was actually working on that Silvervale picture around the same time I was doing this, and that picture I was like, oh, hell yeah. Great. I was like, yeah, this thing.
Of course you were.
Yeah, it's not even the fact that Pretty Lady is just like, oh, these are all my colors. Like, her design just so happens to match up with all the stuff I like to do. So I was having a lot of fun with that. True. And this was just a thing. It's like, well, I just need to make a video in Deltarune. I'll just do something real fast. And I really wish that more waifu-able quick characters were in Chapter 2. Because it didn't really give me anything. All the characters are just too weird and abstract. Like, I'm a computer chip person. I'm a floating head. I'm literally a walking meme. Like, I get it.
Well, why don't you just try with Queen? Just give it a shot. Just sketch something out.
There's just nothing
she's
there.
Hot.
Yeah, but she's just a female. She's cool. Just a female shape in like that suit, and she has a weird head, and that's it. That's all that's going on with it.
It's hot as fuck.
I don't find it all that
weird
hot.
Head lady. Nice.
Not for me. I will pass.
You're wrong.
Like, I found Taskmaster a little bit interesting from that respect, but there's like the floating limb thing never did anything for me.
Yeah.
And she's kind of just like a head, like a floating head mask thing.
Yeah.
So you can weld some tits on there, but that's about it as far as doing anything that is Plague brand marketable.
I guess.
Anyways, as far as Chapter 3 goes, I really hope that if you watch my stream, the main thing that I complained about, I didn't really do much complaining other than, I'm tired of these minigames, the combat, was at the very end, it's like, okay, fine. Once we got to the town and the characters started interacting, I mentioned this before, it's like, this is what I want from Toby's writing. I don't care about running into the meme boss fight. I don't care about the random, like, referential things. It's all that is meaningless to me. I want to see the characters interact because that is by far the strongest thing that he does. And
I agree.
He seems to only do that in Deltarune at the very end of the game. But like one or two little itty-bitty moments where the characters are being authentic to one another.
What?
And that lasts like a few seconds.
Oh, you're totally wrong. There's tons of like moments where
that's
he
why I drew
the
this
characters
one.
To...
I mean, even that one happens really, really late.
I mean, it's like like 3/4, 7/8 through. I guess you're right,
like
but
an hour away from the end, maybe. I guess.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but no, I think there's a lot of moments where the characters get to breathe and be themselves and just do weird shit and interact. I disagree.
I just don't get much out of Deltarune myself. So I hope in Chapter 3 there's way more. I hope there's way more focus on the characters. Is all I was trying to say.
I'm Eli, and I hope there's more sluts for me to draw. That's you. That's what's
that too, because that will. I don't actually care, but that will be the funny thing that drives me to more success. So just go ahead and do that, I guess.
Sure.
All right. So, any last words, Paige, before I put you down to sleep?
No, thank you. I loved Chapter 2. Highly recommend. Cannot wait for 3 to 7. I look forward to it when I'm old and gray, but I will love it. And thank you for drawing this. It's beautiful, and thank you for having me.
Didn't he say something about the other ones would get released at the same time, like 3 to 5 or something weird?
I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I feel like he said it would either be, it's either 3 to 5 or it'll be 3 and the rest. I feel like it'll be 3 to 5, but these
he brought
will not
down
be
a ton
free.
more people because I think he finally
he
has the artist problem of I'm going to do it all on my own. I feel bad about bringing other people in. Blah 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 blah. He finally realized, okay, no, this is stupid. This is gonna be like 2080 before I finish this stuff.
Yeah, which I think he made the right choice. As long as he is the end all be all like of what goes on, then I'm happy.
Everyone needs help sometimes. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, hope you enjoyed the picture. I guess I'll look forward to Chapter 3. I know Paige does. Papyrus will definitely be there. Probably.
He will. Maybe. I know it.
Sans and his tiny mini Sans brother who never actually said... This is my favorite thing, that it doesn't talk.
I would be devastated. I will shit in my own shoes. I'll be so mad.
Fantastic. I look forward to your shit in your shoes. All right. See you guys next time. Bye-bye. Say goodbye, Paige.
Goodbye, Paige.
She did it.